What is going on, everybody? Welcome to GOAT Talk. I know I'm throwing you off a little bit that it's Wednesday night, but of course Faz had another problem, so we had to go Wednesday night. But listen, we're here. It's 8 o'clock. We got a very good show planned for you guys and a special guest. Aaron, why don't you introduce yourself?
Aaron Mulligan. I'm a member of Hawk TV, and I'm looking to go into sports broadcasting, so I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Great to have you.
Do you want to say something stupid? I know we're only, 40 seconds in, but it's already been one of those kind of nights with you. So let's hear it.
I said it was nice to have Aaron. That's all. I'm not saying anything stupid yet.
Yeah. Yet's the key word there. Yeah.
Not yet.
All right, so just the layout for you guys tonight. We're gonna do a little bit of finals preview talk. We're gonna jump around back to football after that. Talk about Bill O'Brien and that firing. Jump back to basketball with Doc Rivers and Philly, and then finish up with probably the more I think is the biggest segment tonight is who is your NFL MVP through the first 4 games. So, without further ado, let's talk about this Lakers Heat series, Faz. What are we thinking?
I mean, I think it's over. Obviously, Lakers are up 3-1. I don't think you're going to see a Denver Nuggets type comeback from the Heat. Listen, Jimmy Butler has been playing out of his mind. I mean, we saw that 40-point triple-double he had. I think last night he had another triple-double for like 20-something points. He's absolutely carrying that team. Miami's been playing fantastic, but like I said a couple weeks ago, I just don't think that they match up to the star power of the Lakers. And I think the series is over. But I got to say, though, it has been a really entertaining series to watch and a really entertaining past couple of games. But I think it's over.
I feel the same way. I think that game last night was such a their win factor, basically. And, with Bam Adebayo coming back for that game, I was like, if the Heat win this game, we're looking at a clean slate on the series. I'm like, They tied up here, and honestly, tonight, if there was a tie game, I'm taking Miami in the series. I am. But the fact that it's 3-1, I don't think they can win that many games against LeBron and AD right now. The chemistry between those two is hotter than it's ever been in the playoffs. So I don't see this working out for Miami. It was a good run for them, and I was rooting for them for a long time. I'll be down $15, but hey, that's the betting life. But listen, it was a statement year for Miami. I know it's not over yet, and I know if Ben's watching, he's going to be salty at me for saying it, but I just don't see, unless something drastically devastating happens to one of the Lakers' stars, but I don't see this series not ending with the Lakers championship.
No, I mean, I agree. And I think last night, more than anything else, you saw just how incredible Anthony Davis really is and how his career was being wasted away in New Orleans because you give him, the best player in the league, but him enough to play with, and you see Anthony Davis, his phenomenal. I mean, he guarded Jimmy Butler for almost the entire game. On the possessions where Jimmy Butler shot the ball on AD, he was like 1 for 6 from the field. And he had that last-minute block down the stretch. So Anthony Davis, as a defensive player, has just been fantastic for the Lakers. But a takeaway from Miami, though, I think they're going to be some serious contenders in free agency this offseason, and I think they could be right back here next year.
I know, Aaron, you said you're not too much of a basketball fan, but just any kind of outlook on the series?
I think you're right about the chemistry between LeBron and Anthony Davis. I have to give a shout out to my cousin Gerald. We had a really good conversation today about the finals. And Anthony Davis in his prime is unbeatable, because him and LeBron just have this chemistry, like you said. But I think there's also like somewhat of an emotional push for them because they feel like they need to win for Kobe. Like you saw in the conference finals, Davis, called out Kobe's name after he scored the last 3-pointer. And I just think it was like, an extra push for them and motivation. And it kind of reminds me of like the Yankee game after 9/11, how it was symbolic and it meant so much. So I think if they win this, it'll be good for the organization and good for the fan base.
It's a good point. There is a lot of emotion in this series, and I feel like it's not even seen to the proportion that it should be, because if they were in the Staples Center doing this, I think that's a whole different there's probably going to be Kobe chants, probably stuff like that happening if they're playing not in the bubble. But you talked about Anthony Davis has been what he was expected to be, I guess you could say, on draft night. And he's probably going to win Finals MVP. And he's just been playing terrific. And Dwayne Wade even said it, that he's probably the best duo that LeBron James has ever played with. I don't know if you agree with that, Faz, but
I agree 100%.
And the fact that D Wade came out and said that, I was like, all right. I mean, I agree, because I think it is true. He's such a skilled big man, and you look over his career, I mean, besides like Chris Bosh and debatably Kevin Love, who both were probably on the decline in their careers when he played with LeBron, or maybe their prime, I guess you could say, for Chris Bosh. But Davis is better than both of those guys.
I think so. I think so 100%.
Playing with LeBron, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like even going like the emotional impact on the gameplay. I also just learned this. So apparently Anthony Davis actually participated in one of LeBron's youth camps back when he was like in high school or something. So not only is there that emotional connection to Kobe, but the two of them, LeBron and AD, and it speaks to their chemistry. They have a history together that goes well before Anthony Davis was even, playing basketball at Kentucky in college. So just the connection between them, the chemistry, playing this season for Kobe. I was saying before the whole lot, writing because really act as it would in a normal year, but kudos to the Lakers. And I agree with what you said, that I think Anthony Davis will go down as the best player LeBron's ever played with. And he's had some really great players alongside him. You talk about Chris Bosh, even like some of the bigger names like Kyrie Irving, Dwayne Wade. Nobody's ever going to top what Anthony Davis is for LeBron. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if LeBron's here without Anthony Davis, but speaks to the team that they've built. Role playoffs, like, Rondo have really stepped up. So that team is absolutely carried by those two stars.
And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is another guy that's really stepped up for them as of recent for the Lakers. So all the hate he got last year, I feel like he's kind of shrugged that off and proven that he's there for a reason. And now everyone can just go blame Danny Green instead. So this year for the Lakers. But all right, so that's all I got to say about the finals, really. If you two have anything to add, by all means, you can, either team, Miami, Lakers, or just finals in general.
I mean, for me, I just think I think LeBron's looking good. He's not in his prime, but, I mean, he did have the 28 points, 12 rebounds. He's almost 36. So him and Anthony Davis in his prime, I think is, a great match, and I think they have it in the bag.
Faz, you agree?
Same for me. No, I agree.
All right, so let's move on to some football with Bill O'Brien. So Bill O'Brien was fired by the Texans this week, and something, I guess, that's been really lurking since the Hopkins trade a lot. I feel like that him being fired has come up, but there was kind of no news leading up to it. It kind of just happened after that game, and the Texans off to an awful start this year. But guys, what do we think about it? Overdue? Surprised? What's the reaction to it?
Mike, if you want to go, you can go.
You go first. You got excited.
I am. I'm excited. I don't like Bill O'Brien. I find him ignorant. When I heard the news, I pictured the GIF that's on Instagram. You can put it on your stories of J.J. Watt when he puts his arms up over his head and it says victory. Because I feel like, the players just have not connected with him for a while. And what made me, what reminded me of this press conference that I watched last year of J.J. Watt. He was asked about, his feelings towards Bill O'Brien last year, and he kind of danced around the question because he couldn't say that he disliked his coach. So I thought, if he's thinking that a year ago, Deshaun Watson had to be thinking it, and at the same time, DeAndre Hopkins, at the time. But, I mean, for me, the last straw was probably the Hopkins trade. I don't understand why he did it. I don't understand why you would let that go. They're 0-4. I mean, he's got 4 division titles, but I just don't think it was working, especially as him as their GM. I just did not think it worked.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, back when they made him kind of like that, I hate when teams do the head coach, general manager is the same position. I disagree with that altogether. I think they have to be 2 separate positions. But Bill O'Brien specifically, once I heard that, I was like, come on, you're going to put this guy in charge of your team. And the first major thing he did was, there were draft picks involved, but essentially it was swapping Hopkins for David Johnson, which made absolutely no sense to me. And I might be wrong, but I don't think Hopkins ever gave any indication that he wanted off of the Texans. I might be wrong in saying that, but either way, I completely disagree with the fact that you make your head coach or general manager the same position. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that I've never liked Bill O'Brien as a coach or a general manager, quite frankly. And I kind of think I'm surprised it happened now, but I think the writing was on the wall for it ever since he first traded Hopkins. And, obviously we've seen David Johnson isn't what he was back a couple of years ago in Arizona, where he was literally like a number 1 overall pick in fantasy in some leagues. He's not what he was. And I just think the writing was on the wall for it. I don't know what they do now. I'm assuming it's going to be an interim coach for the rest of the season. I have some people in mind. I think we're going to save this for after this conversation that might replace Bill O'Brien, but I think it's a lesson learned for the Texans that your coach and your general manager shouldn't be the same person.
I totally agree with that. I think very, very rare occasions does that work out for the franchise is when the coach has GM powers. I just feel like they have too much responsibility at that point. And the Bill O'Brien firing was, I feel like, overdue for a while now. And even before the Hopkins trade, it was something that was, rumored around, with whether it was the ownership or the players that were unhappy with Bill O'Brien because he put together playoff teams. Oh, I shouldn't even say they got to the playoff, but they never took that next step. They had Hopkins, who's I think is probably the best receiver in the league, and
Agreed.
Deshaun Watson, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So that alone they should have been making deeper playoff runs. But he never. Oh, and don't forget about J.J. Watt too, a former Defensive Player of the Year. They should have been taking those steps from wild card, first round playoffs to Super Bowl conference championships and stuff like that. They never took that step with him. I feel like the reason he was there for as long as he was because Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins carry the load. So what happens when Hopkins leaves? You kind of see Bill O'Brien's true colors. And you're right. The timing does surprise me because I feel like it just kind of makes your season a dumpster fire when you fire a coach in the middle of the year. Because then you have an interim coach, and you're like, well, do we want to stick with the interim coach if he does good? And there's all these things that concern themselves. But the 0-4 start, the owners, pulled the trigger basically, and they said, you're done, Bill. You're done. And I think there are a lot of this offseason. There's going to be a lot of very qualified candidates, and we can move on to that if you guys don't have anything else to add just about the firing in general.
I mean, I just think it was frustrating for the organization because, in 2018, they lost the wild card, and then last year they lost the division. So, they kept getting there, and then it just fell.
Agreed.
Is anything to add? Just agree?
No, I agree. This was long overdue. I never liked him before they promoted him. I thought the promotion made no sense, but now I'm happy he's gone. I hope Deshaun Watson gets a coach that he deserves because I think he's incredibly talented. And I hope J.J. Watt, could salvage the end of his career and make some deep playoff runs because I think he deserves that too.
I think David Johnson still has a little bit left in the tank too. Maybe not the same.
I do too, with the right coach.
I think David Johnson can give a little bit too. There's a couple talented players. So I'm interested to see what that roster is going to look like next year. But so let's talk about maybe some replacements. I know it's early for that, but for next year, I can go first if you guys want. But Faz, if you have people, you're more than welcome.
You first, go ahead. I only really have 1 or 2, so you can go first.
So I think this coaching class next year is actually going to be a really, really good coaching class. And some guys I think that would fit in with the Texans is a guy that I thought the Giants should have hired last year, and Eric Bieniemy. the Chiefs offensive coordinator. So I thought that's the coach the Giants should have hired. He has been, part of that Kansas City offense since Mahomes blew up in that offense. So imagine what he can do with Deshaun Watson. I feel like that would be an interesting fit. Another guy I like is Byron Leftwich, Tampa Bay's offensive coordinator. He's a little new in the coaching tree, but what are we seeing now in the NFL? All these young coaches getting hired. So I like what he did with Jameis Winston because I think Jameis Winston's not a good quarterback, but the amount of touchdown passes Winston was able to throw, that stat alone, I think should give Leftwich some eye. But especially with him, I think I need to see how the rest of the Buccaneers season goes to make a call on him. But he's someone to keep an eye on. And I have there's other guys like Kellen Moore, Dallas's offensive coordinator. I think eventually he's going to get a shot at a job. Jason Garrett could get a second chance. Todd Bowles can even get a second chance. Even Steve Spagnuolo, Kansas City's defense.
Jason Garrett
can get a second chance. All these guys can get second chances at head coach. But I think Benamy is the top one for me. Now, a sleeper for a head coach candidate is he's actually the quarterback's coach in Miami right now, and that is Jim Caldwell. So for those who don't know, Jim Caldwell was the Lions coach before Matt Patricia. He had a winning record with Detroit, but just could not get over that playoff hump, so they decided to go with Matt Patricia, and we're kind of seeing the turmoil of Matt Patricia in Detroit. That's probably what's going to be his last season here this year. So I'd be interested to see if he gets any calls. Jim Caldwell, that's my sleeper.
I think for me, like more than anyone else, Kellen Moore. I mean, I think the guy deserves a shot. I think he's made Dak Prescott a better player than Dak Prescott actually is. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I think he's made Prescott a better player than he is. So I think he would do really well in that system with Deshaun. Josh McDaniels. And I think he's been holding out. I mean, listen, he's in the discussion every year. Every year it's like, oh, Josh McDaniels is going to this team. I think I think he's going to leave when Belichick leaves. But I really think he's been waiting for the right situation. And he was linked to like Dallas and even Detroit before they hired Patricia. So he's been linked to all these teams. I think out of all the opportunities he's had to leave New England, Deshaun Watson gives him the best quarterback opportunity out of all of the other chances he's had to leave. So I think if we see the end of Josh McDaniels in New England, it would be him leaving for Houston, because out of all of the players that he could have left New England for, I think Watson's the most talented out of all position. So it's going to actually happen or not, but either way, I do feel like this is genuinely his last year in New England. And whether or not that's Houston, I don't know. I do think he's done in New England, but Houston would be really interesting.
I think Todd Bowles and Josh McDaniels are perfect in the mix. But I'm going to go with Greg Roman, offensive coordinator from the Ravens. I know. I think it would be exciting to see him down in Houston because their offense needs a push. And, I mean, Lamar Jackson got MVP. I mean, you could say that's because Lamar Jackson is who he is. But he had to have a little help. And so I think Greg Roman would do great work down there. And also just as like a fun idea, I think Dabo Swinney, if he's willing to leave Clemson, I think it would be really cool.
That is a hot take. That would be this is recorded, so if that happens, Aaron, you're going to be a genius.
All right, good.
Could you imagine? That's like,
yeah, could you?
Yes.
That's a hot take.
Because if you're right about
that, is a hot take.
You're gonna shock the nation on that one. I like it though.
You're gonna see that blowing up on Twitter, like Aaron called it first.
We love hot takes here. But I agree. I'm with the Baltimore pick because Mike knows this, but John Harbaugh is probably my favorite coach in the NFL. So I'd love to see some people in his coaching tree get head coaching spots. So absolutely. And Mike, you mentioned it too. Deshaun Watson is probably the best quarterback to be walking into as a new coach that we've seen in a while. Let's be honest, because not only is he really good, he's really young, and the Texans do have talent on their roster. Unfortunately, like I said, Hopkins isn't there anymore, but they still have talented guys. Even their receiving core, they have basically 3 guys that could be wide receiver 2s. So if they get another
Yeah,
star
100%.
receiver, they have a really nice receiving core because they have Kenny Stills, Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, and Will Fuller. Those are like guys that could all be wide receiver 2s and 3s. So if you can find a nice wide receiver 1, you have one of the better receiving cores in the league. We did get a question from the comments, Mike. Billy O'Neill. I'm not really sure who that is, but he wants to know what happens when the Jets sign Bill O'Brien.
Listen, so what I was just going to say was that I think the Jets and the Texans are the two best, spots to have a young quarterback. Like,
no,
if you're a coach,
they do not compare. Stop it.
Let me finish. So Billy Kid wants to know what happens when the Jets sign. I don't think the Jets are going to sign Bill O'Brien. I think that the Jets are going to sign Kellen Moore. But that's a conversation for another day. I think Kellen Moore is the guy that the Jets are going to get linked to.
I hope he doesn't walk into that situation.
I think it's a great situation. You have a great young quarterback, a lot of cap
space. With a straight face? How can you look
I'm smiling.
Via
smiling.
Discord and tell me that walking into the Jets as a head coach is a good opportunity?
Because you get to start over, clean slate, good young quarterback, talented running back, and a lot of cap space. But this isn't about that. Forget what Billy said about the Jets signing Bill O'Brien because it's not happening. Back to the Texans. I do agree that I really do think if you're a coach right now and you're going into a situation like from an offensive perspective, I really think the Texans are the best spot. I mean, to your points, they have a bunch of guys who could be wide receiver 2s, and I would even say Will Fuller, borderline low end wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a really great situation. You have a guy like David Johnson who isn't what he used to be, but still incredibly talented. And it's a pretty good defense. So I think Houston is a fantastic situation for any coach. And yeah, Bill O'Brien's not going to the Jets.
Billy disagrees with you. Aaron, could you see Bill O'Brien going to the Jets?
Could, because it's already a disaster over there.
Thank you. Because they're dummies. They're dummies fans.
I'm not saying it because I'm a Giants fan and I dislike the Jets because I have respect for the Jets because of my mom. But it's just everything falls apart every single year with them, and it's just I would see it happen.
The sad thing is I can see it happening. Like they would praise it as this great hire.
I could see.
And they're gonna make him the general manager and the coach too. That's what's gonna happen.
God, that would be the worst. That would actually be the worst.
Any other comments about the Jets, or is that it?
So, all right, let's go through the chat a little bit. So, Benny D wants to know if you missed the Heat talk. Yes, we said
Lakers in 5.
Just to summarize for you, yeah. So Hater actually said Lakers in 5. So you agree with Hater in the chat. I'm gonna say Lakers in 6, but basically, Ben, what we said is that last night was their win factor, and that they're not gonna be able to get this many games in a row against LeBron. Just to catch you up. And yeah, Haters talking about now being a Houston fan in 2020, losing CP, Harden played trash, Texans lost Hopkins, Astros cheated.
Oh, like a Houston sports fan?
Houston sports fan.
I would never want to be a Houston sports fan. Oh my God. They have one of the most overrated basketball players in the history of the sport in James Harden. Oh yeah, overrated. That's a conversation for another day. I think his style of basketball is atrocious, but another day. And then the Astros, getting stripped of everything. Oh my God.
I hate how they're winning. I hate it.
I hate it too. Not a good time to be a Houston sports fan, though.
Aaron, you got any baseball updates for you? I know the Yankees are playing right now.
Yep. See, they were losing 1-0. We're on a commercial right now. But yeah, Tanaka is still in so far.
All right, we will keep an eye on that game. I know.
I believe Judge hit a home run.
All rise.
So it changed.
All rise for the Judge.
Ben, I'm sorry, Miami's not getting it in 7. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm reading.
I want it to happen because I'd win $50, but it's not gonna happen.
Ben, I'm sorry, bro.
Let's keep the basketball rolling though, and let's talk about another head coach being hired in. Doc Rivers, aka how he wants to go by is Glenn Rivers now. You heard that his real name is Glenn. Who would have thought, right?
He wants to go by Glenn?
Because he said there's only one Doc in Philadelphia 76ers history. He doesn't want to go by Doc.
I'm never calling him Glenn.
So, all right.
I'm sorry. I'm never calling him Glenn.
What do we think about the hire? What does this mean for the Sixers?
Honestly, I think it's a hire to stay competitive. I don't think they were in a position where they could hire a young new coach. I think they had to hire someone with veteran status. And listen, think what you want about Glenn Rivers. I think he's a little bit overrated. I mean, he's blown some big playoff series in Los Angeles, even back in Boston. I think he has he's, I don't know how to say this. His name speaks more than his actual coaching skills do. You know what I mean? I just think there's a lot of weight to his name. I don't think he's a bad coach. I just think he might be a little overrated, but I do think he's a good coach for that team. There was a clip of him a couple of years ago calling Simmons and Embiid the next Magic and Kareem. So I think he likes what he's working with there. I don't know if they make it to the finals or past the second or third round with him, but I mean, I think it's a smart hire because they were a team that had to hire a veteran coach. They're in win now mode. They're tied up in salary cap. They're not in a position to make any big plays. So I think they had to bunker down on a veteran coach who's been deep in the playoffs before and just kind of build off that. I do have one, I guess, hot take about Simmons being there, though. I know I just made the comment about Magic and Kareem, but I think some point in his tenure he's going to try to trade Ben Simmons.
So that was actually part of the discussion coming up is trade Ben Simmons. But I felt Brett Brown's was there too long, and if anyone's gonna, like you said, fix them and not have to restart, it's gonna be Glenn Rivers. I'm gonna have to get used to saying that, Glenn Rivers.
Nah, it's weird.
So we'll see about what he does with Philadelphia. I just feel like I don't know. There's something like holding me back from saying that Ben and Joel are gonna win a finals. Because
I don't think they will.
From like what we've seen so far, I just feel like there's something holding them back. And I know in the chat someone said that they should have hired Ty Lue instead. So any thoughts about that?
I mean, I also don't think that's a bad signing. I think he's just a guy that has coaching experience. I just, it's not about who it was. I just think they had to hire someone with experience. They couldn't jump in with a new hire. I know people are roasting me in the comments for the Sixers slander right now. I'm sorry. I don't think Ben and Joel can win a championship together, but I mean, I do think Glenn was a smart hire, though. I don't think they make it any further than they have in the past with him, like maybe a conference finals appearance. But the bottom line with him is that he's coached some big personalities before, and he's coached teams with multiple star players. I mean, you go back to Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. Like, not only was that 3-star players, but there was some chemistry issues on the team with some loud personality. So he's handled that. He juggled the Clippers a couple of years ago with the Chris Paul Lob City team. And, I mean, he came into a team this year that I think majority of people would have either picked to win the finals or at least make the finals. So he's no stranger to teams with high expectations. So I think it's a good hire. I don't know if my issue with it is him as the coach or if my issue is the situation, like the roster that they have. I mean, they're a really weird team. I don't not like Simmons and Embiid, but like Al Horford's a weird fit. I'm not a big Tobias Harris fan. I just think they're a really clunky, awkward roster, and I don't know what moves they have to make to fix that, but I guess that's going to be a wait and see what happens, because I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to a conference finals or the finals, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they lost in the first round.
And if anyone's going to get the job done, it's going to be Glenn Rivers. But Aaron, what do you think about this situation?
Interesting. I do agree with Mike saying he's a little overrated. I feel like people are kind of emphasizing the fact that he won with the Celtics in 2008. And I think in his press conference, he seemed very motivated and he just wants to win. And so, from that, I think he could have a lot of potential with such a young team. But also he's being reunited with Tobias Harris. So he could, use that to his advantage because they know how each other works. But other than that, I think if he really wants to, he could try to work with the young team and make it work and get more wins. But other than that, I think, you just have to watch it play out.
So we'll see what he ends up doing. I know the chat's talking a lot right now. Waldis says they need to develop a positive team culture, and Glenn that's going to take me such a long time to get used to. It was the perfect guy for that, and I completely agree. That if I could say it any way, I completely agree with just Waldis just said in the comments. If anyone's going to fix this, it's going to be him. Say he's overrated if you want. He's a great coach. You can't take that away from him. Nets to win 2021 NBA Finals. No, they're not. They're not going to win a Finals too. I guarantee it. Sixers need to fix their GM and medical staff. Yeah, like I said, he's going to be the guy to come in and it's going to get fixed in time for a championship run. He's going to be the guy to do it.
Billy asked a good question. Who would we trade as if we were the GM of the Sixers? Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons?
It's so tough. That's such a tough question because
Ben said both. I would trade Simmons, and I say that number one. I just think Embiid. I think when their careers are said and done, I think you're going to look back and Embiid was the better player. But I just think Embiid is so embedded in the Philly culture. I think that they're not too far off in terms of talent right now. But I just think Embiid is such a staple in that team. It's not the same magnitude, but it would almost be like the Heat losing Dwayne Wade, or when you think of certain players, you associate them with certain teams, and I just think Embiid's the guy you associate with Philly. And I mean, Simmons could get traded sooner rather than later. I mean, I saw some stuff that they're going to try to flip him for the number one pick in the draft and take LaMelo. I don't know how true that is, but
I think that's an awful idea. But
I think it's bad. I think it's a bad idea too. But Simmons is the guy I'm trading.
If I had to trade one, or even what I think is going to happen is, I think you bring up a good point with Embiid being embodied in that Philadelphia culture. And the way I think about this is, I could see Embiid being a Sixer for his career. I can't see Ben Simmons being a Sixer for his career. I feel like eventually he's going to want to go West Coast. So if I'm thinking about who I'm trading, who's more likely to leave me in free agency? I think it's Ben Simmons every time. So if I had to trade one, I'd probably keep Embiid and trade Ben. But I'm not trading Ben for Ball in the first.
No, I agree.
I think if you can get something good for him, I'd trade Ben. But I'd like to see them give one more shot with those two.
I think that's a good place to end it there. I just think they need one more shot together with a team that's better built around them. Because I'm sorry, Al Horford, Josh Richardson, a bunch of scrubs off the bench. I don't think that's a proper supporting cast.
Well, like I say, I think Doc's going to give them one more year at least. Those two.
Yes.
And they deserve it. Neither of them should be traded this year. I'll say that.
Well, they haven't really played completely healthy many games together. You know what I mean? It was always one or the other was kind of in and out, but we'll see.
Aaron, what do you think? You getting rid of Simmons or Embiid?
Because Embiid seems more consistent.
Yeah, the only thing with Embiid is concerned to me is the injury, but I think having that staple star at center is just so important for building a championship team. So
before we move on, I want to address one comment.
I know, pick what you want because there's a lot going on in the chat right now. So I'm trying to keep up, guys.
So Hader said that someone online worked out a trade Ben Simmons for James Harden. So if there have to be more pieces involved, if you could trade Ben Simmons for James Harden, would you do it?
Okay, let me put it this way. At the trade deadline this year, if they're not 1 or 2 in the East, yes, I'm doing it.
But do you think Houston does it?
Yeah. I honestly
Really?
I could see that happening.
That's the hot take, that Houston would trade James Harden?
There's no D'Antoni anymore there.
Yeah, but you're going to pair Westbrook and Simmons? That's a nightmare.
They might have to.
Well, I guess you would. Yeah. I mean, I don't actually. You know what? I really don't think that's really not the worst trade, because that gives Houston a chance to kind of start over, because I think they're on the decline now, and I think the type of player that Joel Embiid needs is a player like Harden, a playmaker who's also just a really, really good shooter, someone he could kick it out to. And while Ben Simmons is a really phenomenal defender and playmaker, the offensive game outside of the paint just doesn't exist. I think if Embiid's co-star is someone who can shoot the lights out, I think they're a great team.
I could see that being a thing. I really could.
I could see it too. I like that.
Aaron, I'll ask you this. You're sitting in the front office at Philly. You're the Sixers GM. You get that call. Forget about the other pieces. Just, would you do it? would you if you're fifth in the East this year, day of the deadline, and you get an offer of involving Harden and Simmons, and you pick up that phone, what are you doing?
Confidence and trust in James Harden, because Simmons has a lot more, his career to play, and I don't know. I just think he could prosper. He could do well in Houston, but I think James Harden would be more reliable in Philly.
I'm picturing him too, like I'm picturing James Harden like in a Philly uniform.
I would 100% see it. All right, we got to move on, but
yes.
Just real quick, because they're talking about Russell Westbrook in the chat, and all I got to say to you guys in the chat is that KD's a snake, and I like Russell Westbrook, yes. But Russell Westbrook and Ben Simmons aren't going to work. They'd have to dump Westbrook elsewhere to make that work, but Houston could restart with Ben Simmons with a new coach. So, all right, we're going to move on to our last segment, which is who is the NFL MVP right now through the first 4 games. So one of you guys can start. I would say we haven't started with Aaron yet. Aaron, why don't you start?
Yeah, Aaron. Yeah, say Aaron, you start.
No pressure.
I'm going Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
Because I am, and I've always been flabbergasted with the fact that he has never gotten MVP. Okay, this is insane. And this year specifically, he is leading the league in touchdowns with 16 touchdowns. And everybody can, talk about how the defense maybe is struggling a little bit. They've so far let up 1,345 yards. But, personally, I'm not worried about that. The Seahawks are solid. His completion percentage is 75.2. Pretty solid. And I understand that it's, he's very close with Josh Allen right now, and he's got 15 touchdowns. But with Josh Allen, I feel like he needs to be careful with his turnovers. And I know that Wilson has had 2 so far, but I just don't see them, being so close in the race far down the line. I think Wilson can just, completely take this. And I hope he gets it because it's been a long time coming. But yeah, I mean, his last this past week in week 4, that was his worst performance, and he still achieved 360 yards. So, I think you can say that he could be MVP this year.
Faz?
I don't want to steal Aaron's thunder.
Before you start, I saw what you said in the comments. Don't start with me. I know there's a lot of Jets fans in this chat, and it's going to get ugly if you say that.
Are there a lot of Jets fans in the chat?
I don't know. They were giving me some crap about Jets slander earlier, even though they missed most of it.
To be a top 10. That is it for the Jets fans. I just had to put that out there for them.
I didn't hear what you said because you lagged, so thank God.
Oh, I said Sam Darnold has the potential to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
We're not.
No. I just.
Answer the question. Answer the question.
I just said that for the Jets fans. Aaron, I give you all the props in the world because that was just a phenomenal explanation of Russell Wilson. He was my pick too. I can't even steal your thunder, replicate the description you just gave because that was spot on. But Russell Wilson is my pick, and I mean, I think he's by far right now the best quarterback in the league. And I'm sorry for people who are big Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes fans. I think Wilson has been the best QB in the league for the past 3 years. And the talent that he has worked with in Seattle has been inconsistent. I think that team has seen a lot of roster changes, but Russell Wilson has always produced, always put up stats, always put wins on the board for his team. They're my pick to make the Super Bowl this year. I think Seattle's team now is that good this year in offseason, and I think Wilson carries them. But again, just to back up literally everything you said, because you did a really great job with all that, but Russell Wilson's my pick for MVP. I think he's the best QB in the league. I think he has been the best QB in the league for the past couple of years. I'm sorry, people who love Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, but I think Russell Wilson right now is by far the runaway for MVP. I do just really quickly, because I said this last week, I think, before he went down with COVID, Cam Newton was one of my dark horse picks for MVP, just because I think he's been doing really great things in New England. I don't know what the rest of his season looks like with COVID now, but I just always advocate for Cam Newton, so I want to put that out there. But I agree with Aaron 110%, Russell Wilson for MVP.
So I think the obvious four is Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen, and Wilson, as you can see in your on your shot right now. Oh, actually, you can't see that in shot. Let me put that up. But I think those are the obvious four as of right now. But for me, I think I was thinking Russell Wilson too for the longest time. But if I'm looking just through this first 4 games, he had a rough game that last game for his stats. And I think for me, if I had to pick right now, it's between Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen for me. They have almost identical stats. Both teams 4-0. Both have a 71% completion percentage. Allen's got 100 more yards at 1,300. Aaron Rodgers got a touchdown on him, 13-12, and Rodgers has no interceptions to Allen's 1. But we're not counting fumbles or anything like that with Allen. But if I had to pick one between those two, of who I think is going to win MVP, I'm going to say Josh Allen. He has taken such a huge step in that Buffalo offense. He went from being so careless with how he treated, taking big hits, where we still see a little bit of it this year, but that's just Josh Allen. He's shown a lot of maturity at the quarterback position for Buffalo, and he's led them to a 4-0 start. So we'll see what happens as it goes, but Josh Allen is my pick out of those 4 guys. Now, I will say you got to watch out for Rodgers too. Obviously, Rodgers is right there, and he does not get the respect he deserves, Aaron Rodgers. And Russell Wilson's right there. Mahomes had a little bit of a slow start this year, so did Lamar Jackson. So that's why those guys really aren't in the conversation for me yet. But for MVP. And my dark horse is not a quarterback, actually. So you said Cam Newton last week. I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook possibly getting MVP this year. He has been running all over. He never goes down. He seems like he never goes down on the first tackle or even the second tackle. It amazes me seeing him run because the Vikings have been a dumpster fire so far. To just put it briefly. But he has looked awesome. So if the Vikings can start to win some games, I think it's going to help his case for MVP. That's just a dark horse pick for me. What else? I haven't kept up with the comments here, but do you guys anything to add to that? Aaron, did you have a dark horse MVP pick?
No.
Faz, do you have anything to add?
I was frozen. I'm sorry. Am I back?
You are back now, yes.
Oh, no. I am back. Okay. Listen, I think you Wilson's. I think Josh Allen's got to be in the conversation, and I respect that.
Yeah, and I think we're having a little bit of technical.
I think right now Josh Allen's the best quarterback once again in New York.
I can't argue with that. As much as I'd like to support Daniel Jones, I can't right now. Can you guys hear me right now, or are we back? Because I know there's a little bit of internet problems right now.
Yeah, I can hear you now. You were lagging a little bit. You're better now.
All right.
Am I better now? I was frozen for the longest time.
I think it went out for a little bit. I don't know if chat heard me or they just saw me talking, but I basically picked Allen as my guy and Aaron Rodgers as a close second, and Dalvin Cook as my dark horse MVP pick. So I don't know if you guys heard that part or not, but those were my picks for MVP.
I did hear that. Yeah, that came back.
Okay. Yeah, Aaron, did you have a dark horse MVP pick? You guys have anything to add to it?
I'd kind of enjoy if Justin Herbert kind of came out and entered the race. I would just like to see that. I know Tyrod Taylor is a great quarterback as well, but I don't know where he's going to go with this injury. It's kind of an unfortunate situation. I'm really enjoying watching Justin Herbert, so I'm kind of rooting for him to at least get into this race because I think he's a really great quarterback. I wish I could be saying the same answer as last year. I said Christian McCaffrey last year, but probably not this year.
I just want to echo that. I'm a huge Justin Herbert fan. I love what he's been doing. He's been playing, pretty well this season. I think better than what a lot of people thought. I'm Herbert Nation.
All right. We are definitely having
I'm just glad we got this Wi-Fi issue fixed. I was lagging.
We have definitely having some internet problems. I'm seeing that on YouTube now. So if you have anything else to say, I'm gonna wrap up the show, just because I don't want it to go out or anything. But do you guys have anything to say before we wrap it up?
I think we're good. Do you hear me, Sean? Are we good?
Yeah. All right. I'm going to send it off then. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. It should be right below all of us. Make sure you follow Goat Talk on Instagram at g.o.a.t._talk. We will be back to Thursday nights next week at 8 p.m. Thank you for coming. Faz, I'm glad you just didn't do too much Jet slander. I think you got lucky that the internet went out there for a minute because it was about to get heated up in here. I'll say it that way. Thank you, everybody, for talking in chat. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all of your questions. I would have liked to get to some of these at the end, but like I said, the dorm room internet is kind of letting us down a little bit here. So Thursday, 8 p.m., this is Goat Talk.